The goal initially of the sanctions, we were told, was to cripple the Russian economy, and that was under Biden. And yes, it is worth noting, as Trump has noted many times, that this war was started under Biden. Now, you can say whatever you want about it. It didn't begin under Trump, and it very well could have. The same conditions were in place in terms of the realities on the ground over there. But for some reason, it was far better timing in Putin's mind to go with a dementia puppet in the White House. I think that speaks for itself. I think it's quite clear why that would make sense. And from Putin's perspective, again, if you're just looking at force, cunning, getting what you want, Putin made a smart move on that one. He going in while it was Biden was certainly, I think, a stronger option for him. But okay, back to the economic sanctions and the realities of that. We were told, and I remember this, that in the early days of the war, these sanctions, and this is by the Biden administration, these sanctions are going to bring Russia to their knees. And what ended up happening was, I think, pretty foreseeable, Clay, for anybody who understands how the global hydrocarbon economy works, which is Russia just said, okay, we're just going to keep selling our oil and someone's going to buy it. We're going to keep selling our natural gas and someone's going to buy it. Because for nation states, oil and natural gas are absolute necessities and are effectively money. I mean, they are what you need to have a modern economy. And so looking at what happened when the sanctions got turned up a bit, especially on individuals initially, there was a pivot and the Russians got closer with China, selling a lot more of their oil and natural gas to China, selling it to India, which came up recently in the context of the tariff negotiations with Donald Trump, where he was saying, you guys better knock that stuff off buying the Russian oil, or you're going to get hit with some crazy high tariffs. North Korea moved closer, but really North Korea is just an appendage geographically and politically of China, so that's not surprising. North Korea was closer into the Russian orbit than at any time previously. But Clay, the real part of it is, and I think what lays it out more clearly than any other aspect, the Europeans continue to buy the stuff. The Europeans haven't entirely weaned themselves off of this. And so how can you have a sanctions regime with so many holes in it? And that's why the Russian economy hasn't been brought to its knees at all. It's been a hit. I'm not saying there aren't, I think they've lost McDonald's and Starbucks and stuff. But if Europe relies still on some degree of Russian oil, which they do, how are you going to say you have a successful sanctions regime? I mean, Russia's share of petroleum to the EU has fallen, but they're still buying some of it. I mean, just to note this, and other countries have picked up a huge part of the excess, because why not? They just want to get the oil. They don't care about this conflict.
The caller's question, I think this goes to the essence of this to such an extent. And let me give credit. Friday night, Sean Hannity did a great sit down with Trump from Anchorage, and Trump actually hit on this. He said one of the big issues with the Ukraine invasion of Russia and the isolation of Russia was we actually pushed Russia and China together as compatriots in some way. And I think this is so important, and we talked about it some on Friday and I believe Thursday as well. So Russia, we cut off. That's the idea, right? We're going to say, these sanctions are going to be massively important. We are going to shut Russia down and isolate them from the rest of the world. Really, it's just kind of a shell game, because what happened was Russia's still selling their oil and gas. Instead of primarily selling it to Europe, they sell it to India, and then India can reroute it all over the world, right? So we're really just allowing India. So the tariff of 50% effectively that Trump put on India was a whoa moment. What Trump has not done yet is actually hold China accountable for buying so much Russian oil and gas. And I think the India move was a warning shot at China and Russia that next level of sanction might be coming. And so this is this whole idea that we were going to end Western relationship with Russia and it would bring their economy to its knees didn't work. It just didn't work. Now, inflation is way too high in Russia. They are having to take less than the market value overall would be for their oil and gas if they were selling it freely on the global marketplace. But by and large, India is paying a little bit of a discount. They then are marking it up, selling it elsewhere, and making a good profit in the process. And so this is what the one of these things that is so interesting here is we thought we had the economic might to keep Russia from continuing this war, and that hasn't worked. And
can I
now,
give you one of the ironies of this? First of all, for anyone who was wondering, just to give you some of the numbers, Europe's reliance on Russian gas, I think, is down 90%, but they're still doing billions and billions of dollars. The EU is still buying billions of dollars of Russian oil. That's what you need to know. That is still happening. And the value of all Russian natural gas imports from Russia, so Russian exports of natural gas, has increased by dollar figure over the last 4 years, Clay, because of shortages. It turns out when you have price increases because of changes in supply and demand, they can't get as much out, but what they're getting out costs more because countries are still reliant on this stuff. You do not have a modern economy. You cannot function. You cannot feed yourself as a nation without oil and natural gas. So the idea that we were going to box Russia into a corner with this was, yeah, there's pressure. Yes, the EU has gotten is doing less than it was and substantially less on the oil side, but they're still 10% of what they were. But Russia is not hurting anywhere near the way that we were told that they would. And I think that's just indicative of the people in charge either overestimate their own strength or just don't really have an understanding of how the global economy really functions.